Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Brian Altano. I'm joined with Sam Clayward.
Hey, Brian.
Joined by. And it's the 125th year of Nintendo as a company making video games, toys, cool stuff that we've grown up with our whole lives. So we here at Nintendo at IGN thought we'd look back at what they've done and some of our favorites. And this is a personal favorite of both of ours. Damn, nice move.
Yeah, it's a cool one, huh?
Yeah. This is Donkey Kong, and this
Nintendo first most important game.
It is, yeah. This originally came out for the arcade in 1981. This is the NES port that came out in '84, which, as most of us played growing up, we kind of thought like, man, this is a one-to-one port of the arcade.
Yeah,
Totally.
and it looks really good.
Yeah,
like it's a good-looking port, but there's some serious missing stuff, including an entire level. And the most important question you have to ask yourself when you play Donkey Kong: how high can you get?
Yeah, how high can you get?
That's missing from this. But I don't want to get too hung up on how this isn't the original Donkey Kong, because it's actually really difficult to capture the original Donkey Kong. We could have put a camera up to a Donkey Kong machine, which would have been fun, or used MAME, which we don't really believe in. We're actually using an NES cartridge here.
Yep.
But the reason that people suspect you can't play Donkey Kong on a Nintendo system right now is that Nintendo might not own the rights to Donkey Kong anymore.
How crazy is that?
The actual arcade board version of Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And that might be because a third party was used to actually program Donkey Kong after Shigeru Miyamoto and co. designed the game to replace, of course, a failing game, Radar Scope. I really screwed this up.
I think you're doing good.
Let it be known that I play the arcade game for this a lot, but I don't really play the NES game, so this is a fun new experience for me. Anyway, they licensed or they farmed out the actual programming for the game to a company that kind of set up a bad deal.
Yeah.
And the bad deal was that I think that company might have some legitimate rights to the programming of Donkey Kong, which Nintendo doesn't own. How nuts is that?
Nice move, by the way.
Thank you. So Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong 3 are the trifecta of early arcade games that Nintendo made, and most of those, all three of those games came out as black box carts on the NES. Those are the ones that we're playing. Black box carts are the first round of NES games. We're in black boxes. That's what they called that.
And something I want to point out, obviously Donkey Kong and Mario, those franchises respectively, have gone to do insane numbers. There have been wonderful sequels released for decades now. They all started kind of right here, but this game still has an incredible amount of charm and little things that sort of went on to define the games after that.
Yeah, it's infinitely playable. It's almost like Tetris or Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Like it's really, I mean, it's tough, a little bit tougher than those games at first, but man, it provides so much pleasure and fun, and it's so pretty. And it's the Nintendo feel, and they got it in 1981.
Yeah, and so I will point out also that is not Princess Peach up top. That is a woman named Paulina.
Yeah,
Pauline, who's
that's not even really Mario, right?
Yeah, it's Jumpman they originally called him.
Yeah.
But you'll notice a lot of things in this game moved on to so there were construction level girder levels in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
That hammer you see comes back in lots of Mario games.
Sure.
There's little things here and there. The barrels are also very important. The barrels went on to become DK's transportational method in the Donkey Kong Country games.
Yeah, these games kind of split off at some point, right? Because there's Super Mario Brothers series, and it doesn't have barrels and ladders and stuff in it. And I think that's kind of interesting. So this game originally was it was a kind of a patch for this other game that came out that wasn't doing well here, Radar Scope, Nintendo's first foray into arcade games. And before that, they'd had a video game on the market in the mid-'70s called the Color System 6.
Yep.
But they hadn't had, they were trying the U.S. arcade market, which was just exploding because of Pac-Man 1980. And so they tried Radar Scope, which is a Space Invaders knockoff, and they didn't work out. And so they charged young designer Shigeru Miyamoto with coming up with a replacement, and that's how Donkey Kong came about in the first place. And they kind of gave him free reign to kind of draw and design and conceptualize the game. This game has a little bit of a storyline. It's about this monkey stealing this girl and Mario trying to get him back. Think of that compared to Space Invaders or Pac-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Those games just don't have stories. This is credited with the first scripted story ever in video games ever. Of course, there's games like Zork and Adventure, which kind of have storylines, but a graphical game, I should say.
Yeah, and Donkey Kong's sort of one of those games that went on to it kind of revitalized the video game industry, right? And kind of brought it back to where we see it today. And one thing I will point out, a lot of old arcade games were much simpler than this. Obviously,
Oh, yeah.
you know, there weren't really jump mechanics.
I mean,
There
this was
just,
during an arcade renaissance, but that didn't mean games were complex.
Yeah.
It meant they were looking better and better, and they had wacky and wacker ideas. They didn't necessarily have a jump button or you know a level progression
Yeah.
where there's just so much to do that's not just running around and collecting dots. You know.
Yeah, and you know, as this is complex, but I will point out that watching this video, you will see Sam beat this game twice, which is basically
Yeah.
progress through all the levels, and that's how games were back then. You would finish a game and then keep going and going. Now in this game, Donkey Kong, the stages just loop, and on the arcade version, they actually play in varying orders. There's
Yeah,
a
you
weird
play
pattern.
level 1 and then 4.
Yeah.
And then 1, 3, and 4, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
And that's the order you play in. Now 2 is the pie factory or the cement factory level.
Yep.
That's just not in this at all.
Yeah, and I
So
believe here it's just 1, 2, 3.
you just play 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 over and over again.
Yeah.
Now here's the great thing is that Nintendo did add the pie factory in. They did not change the how high you can get or add anything else in, but somebody in what, like 2011 or 2012 added in the cement factory.
Yep.
Just that blows my mind. Somebody at Nintendo is like, okay, we'll take the NES ROM, and we will
We'll add the cement
modify
factory
it.
that wasn't
Yeah.
that wasn't there for ages.
Yeah, it's kind of like what they did with
Nice
NES
work, by the way.
Remix. Thanks. I think this is going really well as a Donkey Kong game on NES. I love this music. Look at the little X's, the little crosses made by his mouth there. There's just
His
so
teeth,
much
yeah.
in the design of making the characters look right. Like Mario's mustache exists only because they had to make a big nose on it.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. You couldn't tell where his face was, so they gave him a mustache to define it. It's just so cool to me, you know. Like this was before so much happened in the world of Nintendo, but it's also the sort of seed that began so much growth.
Yeah, and of course it was also one other neat fact. It's supposed to be a Popeye game. Oh, screwed that up. I got stuck at the top of the ladder. That
happens a lot
sometimes.
here.
We should wrap this up. But yeah, it was supposed to be a Popeye game, and they eventually did get the Popeye license, and
Yeah.
you can kind of see how that's similar with maybe Bluto up there and Olive Oil instead of Donkey Kong, who we also don't know where the name of Donkey Kong came from. But it could be a reverse translation of the words stubborn and monkey,
Yep.
or it could be a misspelling of Monkey Kong. Those are the two prevailing theories. I don't think anybody's ever got to the bottom of it, but that's what
Or-
we're going to do here at IGN.
Or a misspelling of Yankee Dong.
Donkey Kong, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Yankee Dong, aka Donkey Kong.
AKA Donkey Kong.
Danky Kang, Kanky Dang, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be celebrating all of Nintendo's history for a while, and so, you know, come back, check out all the other Donkey Kong games that we played in part of the series, and the Mario games, and, you know, respect your elders, because this is one of the grandfathers of gaming right here.
That's right.
For all things video games and Nintendo and Yankee Dong, keep it locked right here to IGN.